Good morning, everyone. So now, we are here to discuss with you the critical evaluation and promotion of historical and cultural heritage. Doing historical research online. Cyberspace is a great resource for research if one knows how to use it. It can be done through the usage of search engine websites. Search engine websites that can be used are Yahoo and Google. Wikipedia can also be used, but sometimes some articles are not credible and reliable as these are all subject to editing by anyone. There are existing websites where individuals can legally download scanned copies of books and other materials for free, especially those books with expired copyrights and are in public domain. One example of this is Project Gutenberg. Philippine government websites are also enriched with sources. For instance, anyone who has to write an academic paper, historical novel, or just wants to check out the facts of a particular period which they are interested in will find that the internet is their best option. It is no longer necessary to head to the library and arm yourself with piles of books to find out what you want to know. One of the main advantages of searching online for historical facts and resources is that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You do not even have to get dressed to find out what you need to know. It can be done at any time of the night and day. You can save a great deal of time by simply opening a browser and searching for what you need. Doing historical research in libraries and archives. Research in libraries and archives is necessary in the study of history as these are repositories of primary and secondary sources that allow us to create narratives of the past through accepted methods of historical scholarship. It is imperative upon students to be able to develop an aptitude toward doing research in these venues so as to further develop their skills in historical research. Students of history are usually expected to write historical essays and or historical research papers, and this entails the collection of data through primary sources on Philippine History Online. However, much remains to be digitized and made accessible to the public. Libraries and archives still provide more variety of sources in different formats such as books, journal, articles, newspapers, magazines, photographs, and even audio and video recordings. But sifting through all the materials available might prove to be a daunting task for the unacquainted. Nowadays, libraries have forgone the tedious and antiquated card cataloging system and have been using the digital version to catalog their holdings, called the Online Public Access Catalog or the OPAC. In this system, instead of going through each entry on physical index cards, a simple search will yield the holdings of the library related to what you are searching for. Searching by subject will give you a list of sources, primary and secondary, to aid you in creating a preliminary biography that you may later on access physically in the holdings of the library. The catalog lists down all kinds of materials available based on the subject used in the search. This could be books, journals, maps, and other materials that fit what you might be looking for. Do not limit yourself to using books and other published materials when you may be able to utilize other forms of sources. Materials that may be too old to be physically handled may also be available in digital form or microfilm. The National Library of the Philippines in Ermita, Manila provides a rich treasure trove of materials for a student researcher interested in Philippine history, especially in their Filipiniana section. It has a valuable Rizalania collection, several sets of Blair and Robertson's The Philippine Islands, 1493 to 1898, rare Filipiniana books. Philippine presidential papers and other materials that are accessible to the public, especially to students. Research in archives may be a lot more difficult and prove to be too advances, but will provide you with many sources not available in the usual libraries. The National Archives of the Philippines, also in Manila, is an agency of the government mandated to collect, store, preserve, and make available records of the government and other primary sources pertaining to the history and development of the Philippines. Most of the materials here, especially for the years of Spanish colonialism, are in their original language and may not be accessible to college students. But other materials may be useful, and it would not hurt to ask assistance from the staffs in the archives. The libraries in the University of the Philippines in Diliman, Quezon City have holdings that could also be useful in research. The collections, particularly in the main librarian Gonzales Hall, are rich in resources, especially the Filipiniana section, serials, theses, and dissertations. Other university libraries are also accessible to the public. The Ateneo de Manila University and Quezon City hold the American Historical Collection, a rich source for the American period in the Philippines. The University of Santo Tomas in España, Manila also has collections from the 16th century, owing to the fact that it is the oldest Catholic university in the country and is a historic site itself. Doing life histories and biographical research. Doing life histories and biographical research encourages dialogue by building connection between people, and it affirms their role as co-determining subjects of their own life and lived stories. Life history has been given many meanings in several scientific fields. It can refer to a variety of methods used for conducting qualitative narrative interviews. Doing local and oral history. Local history is the study of history of a specific community or a smaller unit of geography. They are the passing on of knowledge, memory, and experience by word of mouth. They can take the form of anything from folklore, myths, and stories passed from person to person, to a formal interview about a particular event with someone that is recorded and kept in an archive as an historical resource. Interacting with history through historical shrines and museums. Historical shrines and museums double as time portals. However, it is important to remember that visiting a museum necessitates planning. One thing you should do when you arrive at the historical shrine or museum is look for the marker. The National Historical Commissions of the Philippines, NHCP, or formerly National Historical Institute, or NHI, has placed markers around the country that provide information on what makes the Philippines unique. Protection and conservation of the national cultural heritage. An act that provides for the protection and conservation of the national cultural heritage and the strengthening of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, is Republic Act No. 10066. This act is known as the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009. This act was approved on March 26, 2010 under the presidency of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. This act has the following objectives: protect, preserve, conserve, and promote the nation's cultural heritage, its property and histories, and the ethnicity of local communities. establish and strengthen cultural institutions, and protect cultural workers and ensure this professional development and well-being. Local history. Local history refers to a written record of past events relating to local situations. National histories sprouted from the contributions of local history. In other words, there was local history before there was national history. Local history contains a wealth of details and stories that help reveal how societal changes impacted the lives of ordinary people. By investigating local history, you can find documents such as accounts of the first cars in a town, what people thought of them, and how they changed the lives of the community. Importance of local history.
There are seven importance of local history in reading in Philippine history. First, local history enriches our understanding of our national history. It is more than the study of towns, provinces, and regions of the Philippines and the people who live there. The study of local history offers the foundation and the substance of true national history in the local context. Number two, more significantly, it inspires creative and innovative responses to development with people with special talents and potentials. It provides more room for local initiative to develop and for local potentials to progress. Number three, from the infinite reservoir, people can draw patriotic strength in times of crisis, inspiration in moments of despair, and direction and in times of ambiguity and dilemma. Number four, the Philippines have a robust and diverse source of local history because it has 16 regions, 78 provinces, 1,537 municipalities, 69 cities, 41,925 barangays, and over 100 ethno-linguistic groups. Here we can see Commonwealth life in the context of social perspective. Number 5. National interest because of national purpose and will should represent the various localities, sectors, and ethnic group from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, regardless of creed, origin, race, and gender. Number 6. Filipino, Filipino historiography integrates both approaches to national history. And lastly, in short, national history without local history is superficial just as local history without national interest is parochial and divisive. So, what is the importance of local history in Philippine history? Local history is expectedly closest to the people's heart and consciousness because it reflects their own identity, experiences, and aspirations. It is the interpretative reactions of the past of their locality, embracing its political, social, economic, and cultural life.
Sources in local history. History without sources is like a bird without wings. Sources are the foundation of historical data and information. However, not all historical works with sources are commendable. Oral historical sources collected from interviews, which represent the main focus of oral history as a methodology. Written sources such as reports, correspondences, speeches, memorials, petitions, and any printed matter accessible. Historical sources may be generally divided into secondary accounts, which comprise accounts by individuals with some valid information from eyewitnesses. A secondary account typically utilizes multiple primary accounts to piece together the chronology, events, or experiences of something that took place in history in order to make a scholarly argument. Secondary accounts are analytical examinations of primary accounts produced by people who were not involved with nor experienced the historical era, event, or person studied. Historians write secondary accounts about history, and also the primary accounts. Primary accounts such as eyewitness accounts. Primary accounts are valuable to historians because they give insight into the ways in which historical figures understood or internalized what they experienced, their place or significance in history, and give historians an understanding of historical figures' opinions. Primary accounts created by institutions, such as census or survey, can help document basic statistics concerning an era. Primary accounts are clues from the past. Oral history. Oral history is a historic source of a special nature. Its special nature lies in the fact that it is an unwritten source of information which consists of verbal testimonies which are reported statements involving the past. Oral history is not a disciplined history. It is only a methodology of history in which the eyewitness narrates first-hand historical events through the intervention of a historian. Oral history is extremely important. It is the way stories were passed, though before writing was invented. During the Dark Ages, writing was forgotten because everyone was so focused on staying alive during the hard times. Oral history allowed the Greeks to remember when they couldn't write. Importance of oral history. Oral history is important to modern historiography, eyewitness account, and rumor account. It becomes valuable as a historical source if it is corroboration by other sources. Otherwise, it should be dismissed as an unfounded hearsay. Oral history has become an international movement in historical research. This is partly attributed to the development of information technology, which allowed a method rooted in orality to contribute to research. Particularly, the use of personal testimonies made in a wide variety of public settings. For instance, oral historians have discovered the endless possibilities of posting data and information on the internet, making them readily available to scholars, teachers, and average individuals. This reinforced the viability of oral history since the new modes of transmission allowed history to get off archival shelves and reach the larger community. The practice of oral history. Where written documents lack, oral history may be used as long as other sources corroborate this. Oral history also provides the power to the marginalized people who have no access to writing or could not write, or those who have no time to write history, their view of the past. Being a talking people, Filipinos are filled of oral histories. The informant is the one who conveys the information, and he plays an imperative role in the process of oral history. Informant. It is an individual or group of persons who gives an account of a referent that of which the account is given the thing observed. An eyewitness version is the sum of the testimonies made an informant concerning a single series of events of a single event. Oral history helps fill the slits in written history. Promotion and preservation of Philippine museums. The Historic Presentation Division, or HPD, of the NHCP aims to promote Filipino cultural heritage through the preservation, protection, and development of historic museums, archives, shrines, landmarks, art galleries, and other historical structures. It keeps itself abreast and updated with the latest on scientific and information technologies concerning the field of history conservation. As an authority on conservation of both movable and immovable objects, the HPD shall promote awareness and appreciation of historic sites and structures through conservation, technical assistance and information education communication, or IEC, programs along guidelines set by internationally accepted conservation standards and principles and local and international agreements. Museums of the Philippines. A museum is a non-profit, permanent institution in the service of society and its development, open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment for education, study, and enjoyment. The National Museum of the Philippines is one of the major attractions here in Manila. Its image inside and outside of the museum must attract more international and local tourists. Also, this attraction will benefit the students from their studies in histories and other subjects like sciences. Nowadays, the community of Manila was starting to develop its image to improve its service for the tourists and attract more people to visit this place. People usually seek some adventurous place to visit and make them satisfied in their vacation. But the National Museum of the Philippines makes some events and exhibit to expose the things inside the museum. They also welcome new inventions and new things came from the people in this era. The 5 best museums in the Philippines. Number 1. University of Santo Tomas Museum of Arts and Sciences. It is located at University of Santo Tomas, España Boulevard, Manila. The University of Santo Tomas Museum of Arts and Sciences is the oldest existing museum in the Philippines. It started as a Gabinete de Física, or observation room, of mineral, botanical and biological collections in the 17th century. Under the old Spanish educational law, the collections were used as classroom materials, especially in medicine and pharmacy. Number 2. Ayala Museum. Ayala Museum is located at Makati Avenue, corner de la Rosa Street, Makati City. Ayala Museum is a modern museum showcasing a huge range of displays about the people of the Philippines, tracing their journey from ancient history to the present day. The extensive ethnological and archaeological displays relate to Filipino culture, history, art, and heritage. The museum is right in the middle of the Makati Central Business District, offering a relaxing and educational respite from the chaos of the city. After you're done getting to know the country's history, you can quickly return to the modern world with a visit to the nearby shopping center. There are also lots of dining and entertainment options in the area. Number 3. Rizal Shrine. It is located at Calamba, Laguna. The Rizal Shrine in Calamba, Filipino, Museo ni Jose Rizal, Calamba, is a reproduction of the original two-story Spanish colonial-style house in Calamba, Laguna, where Jose Rizal was born on June 19, 1861. Rizal is regarded as one of the greatest national heroes of the Philippines. The house is designated as a national shrine Level 1 by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. It is located along Mercado Street and Rizal Street in Calambas, Poblacion 5 and is in close proximity to St. John the Baptist Parish Church and the City College of Calamba. Number 4. The Mind Museum. It is located at Campus Park, 3rd Avenue, Bonifacio Global City. The Mind Museum is the first world-class science museum in the Philippines that makes everything you didn't bother learning in grade school suddenly so fascinating. It has 5 main galleries occupying a 4,900 square meters exhibit area spanning 2 floors. Each has its own theme including atom, life, earth, universe, and technology. They are linked by nature's webways. The museum was well received when it opened and won the Teya Award for Outstanding Achievement for the Science Museum category. The museum was designed by architect Ed Calma from Lor Calma and Partners. The design of the structure was inspired from cellular structure and growth and had a solar reflective exterior, natural wind, ventilation, and rainwater flow drainage. And lastly, the National Museum of the Philippines. It is located at Taft Avenue, Ermita, Manila, Metro Manila. The National Museum, officially the Museum of the Filipino People in Rizal Park, Manila, was originally designed as a public library in 1918 before it was inaugurated on July 16, 1926 in 2003. Renovations started to transform it into the National Art Gallery. The National Museum is a trust of the government, is an educational, scientific, and cultural institution that acquires, documents, preserves, exhibits, and fosters scholarly study and public appreciation of work of art, specimens, and cultural and historical artifacts representative of or unique to the cultural heritage of the Filipino people and the natural history of the Philippines. Promoting and preserving archives. Archives are places where records of all types and formats are kept and made accessible for research and other purposes. They are a good place to find primary sources, both unpublished materials and those that have been published for their parent institutions, members, or constituencies. Personal and institutional records of all types can be found in archives and mass media, ephemera, oral histories, and even artifacts. Archives are distinct from libraries concerning their functions and organizations, although archival collection can often be found within library buildings. Number 1. The National Archives of the Philippines. This, or in Filipino, Pambansang Sinupan ng Pilipinas, is an agency of the Republic of the Philippines mandated to collect, store, preserve, and make available archival records of the government and other primary sources about the history and development of the country. It is the primary record management agency tasked to formulate and implement the records of management agency. Number 2. Family History Library. Most important records should be available at the Family History Library and Family History Centers. The microfilm records include birth certificates, death certificates, marriage contracts, and notarial records. Number 3. The Philippine Statistics Authority. The Philippine Statistics Authority, formerly National Statistics Office, which is under the jurisdiction of the Office of the Civil Registrar General, has several records of birth, marriage, death, and etc. There are branches all over the Philippines, but its main office is located at PSA Complex, East Avenue, Diliman, Quezon City. And lastly, National Library of the Philippines or Pambansang Aklatan ng Pilipinas, Records Management and Archives Office, tanggapan sa pamamahala ng mga kasulatan at sinupan. The National Library of the Philippines has available 45,000 volume Filipiniana collection of biographies, local histories, bibliographies, and gazetteers. It also has a collection of rare books and manuscripts, newspapers, and brochures, microfilms, atlases, maps, gazetteers, and manuscripts of the rare books collection.